Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let Me Listen. I'm Bhavna, and I have with me Jennifer Beitz. Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, how are you?
Doing very fine, and I'm so happy to have you here on Let Me Listen.
Excellent. I'm happy to be a guest. I know we've had our discussions about limiting beliefs before, and I feel that there would be value in sharing that with your community.
True, true. And we've had several talks, in fact, over the last few months on various things. And limiting beliefs is something that's dear to both of us, and especially you, since you this is your area of expertise, and you coach a lot of women who are undergoing stressful situations with respect to their limiting beliefs, and you help them get over it. That's fantastic, and I'm really happy that there are so many people who are getting benefited by it.
Yes, I know I had to do my own inner work with my own limiting beliefs. And the more I was able to shatter those beliefs and create new ones and go through that transformation, the more I wanted to help others experience that transformation for themselves.
Oh wow, that's fantastic. What I understand of limiting beliefs is that we all have our values and beliefs that we inculcate and that we've grown with, and there are few beliefs that come to us or they're handed over to us when we were children, and it stuck with us. It's more like something that defines who we are. Values and beliefs actually define who we are, and yet there are few which could hamper our growth, and we don't realize that. That's what we call limiting beliefs for people who do not understand that phrase.
Right?
Yes.
And where do we learn that we all possess these beliefs and that they might be limiting us? Right? It's certainly not our parents and our teachers who are asking us to maybe sit with and determine if it's serving us or not. So we really don't have those skills as children and as young adults. It's not until we mature into adults that we might recognize some of the limits in our thinking, in those beliefs that were really passed down to us, right? From generations. Really, if we could go way back to our ancestors and see these beliefs really being handed down from generation to generation. And it's not that all beliefs need to be shattered. It's the ones that don't serve us well anymore. And those are the ones that we really need to dig in and do that deep inner work that allows us to release the old belief.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That's fantastic. Yes. Yes. Not every belief that we have that we hold on to needs to be let go of. It's only those that do not serve us well that are limiting, as we call them, because
Right.
they form obstacles in our path to progress, and that's why we need to let go of them. And talking about how we have developed over childhood and as young adults, and we carry it forward until we one day realize that this is something that's not serving me, and I've got to let this go. Before that, it's more of a conditioning, is what I feel. Because as children,
Mhm.
you do not really know what you're carrying, what kind of values and beliefs you carry, and these you do not know whether it's going to hurt you or it's going to do you good, and yet we carry them while you're growing, right? And then they form a
Mhm.
pattern through childhood, through adulthood. And then that pattern, those patterns are something that we need to recognize. And that when you mentioned that during adulthood, sometimes it just hits us right in the face that this is not something that is doing me good. This is something that's harming me, and this is exactly what I need to drop.
Mhm.
Right?
Hmm. I know, for an example, in my own career path, it was watching others use their voice and share their opinions and ideas that was actually nudging me in that I wasn't sharing my ideas. I wasn't sharing my ideas because I had this belief that I wasn't good enough and that I needed to prepare more, or that my ideas weren't as deserving as someone else's. And it wasn't until I started to unpack that limiting belief about not being good enough that I was actually able to shatter that belief and take action despite that fear, despite possibly being rejected about my ideas, right? And so as the more I started to take action, the more I started to shatter those beliefs.
Wow. That's perfect. I have something very similar from my corporate experience, which is I never thought that I could get a salary that's really good enough, and I always felt that I was probably not really deserving enough for a promotion, and I never asked for it. And I saw people who were you know watching out as you mentioned, and they got it. And it's only because of what I felt that I was probably not worth it, not deserving it, that I did not even go forward and voice out what I really wanted. And you never know. I mean, okay. It brings us down to the same core. One of the platforms or one of the basic limiting beliefs that most people carry, especially women, is that of self worth. I've
Mhm.
struggled with that for all my life. It's only the last couple of months that I have worked on myself in totality that I have. I can't say I've completely overcome that. Yet I'm far better than what I used to be in terms of self worth and self esteem. These two things, they're interlinked, and the moment you bring one up, the other one automatically is taken care of.
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, you had me thinking there when what popped up for me. Hang on, I don't want to lose my train of thought. When you were talking about the limiting belief and how, sorry, you're just going to have to say it again because I had a thought there.
Oh, yeah, sure thing.
Um,
So it's all about the limiting beliefs that we carry forward, and then at some point it boils down to one thing, right? Especially for us women, it boils down to, it could be for anyone actually. Self worth is something that we have great problems stemming out from that, from childhood or from any time that we pick it up. Self worth, which is interlinked with self esteem, and you value yourself or devalue yourself for no reason.
mhm. Now I know where I was going. I was going to talk about how I experienced something very similar and how I was able to maybe overcome that was by increasing my self care. Because as you were talking about, it's that self esteem that
Yes.
happens to be low. I know for myself, I have people pleasing tendencies. And when I am feeding the people pleasing, I am not feeding my self care. And when I don't feed my self care, I found that I sat more with negative emotions, such as resentment and anger. And it's through the self care that I've been able to prioritize me in my life. And that made a huge difference to my self esteem and to my confidence. Instead of looking for that external validation and for others to approve of me or my ideas, I started to change and go inside and find my inner value. And that is something that I really want to gift others with. That's that whole, that's the gem that's hidden within our self-discovery, right?
That's beautiful.
Right?
Yes, yes, that's beautiful. You actually got the crux of everything, and then you put it out to our listeners. uh, very
Mm.
similar to this actually. It's not just the approval from outside world. It was also you spoke of resentment and frustration that was coming out because of that, right? Because you were
Mhm.
looking for approval from outside. For me, it's more of the guilt and regret which came out of all this, because I would put myself on the back burner, back seat, and do a lot for others. And it's not wrong, it's not bad. These are all my loved ones. And yet, at some point, it just strikes to you that you're not doing anything for yourself. You're not putting
Mhm.
your interests in front. And that, at some point in your life, it just blasts in your mind, and then you understand that this is not how it's supposed to be. You're not loving yourself enough. You're not giving yourself enough care, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
You're not valuing yourself as much as you deserve, and that is, yes, these are all interlinked again. This again boils down to the self-esteem and self-care, which is highly important. And yes, so this is where I was coming from, because this brought in a lot of regret and guilt that I'm doing a lot of things and yet I'm not happy about it. So there's guilt, there's regret, there's resentment, there's everything attached to it, and which is not doing me any good. I'm actually thinking so much in my head that I'm not putting enough into my progress.
Mm.
So
Oh, that is so true. I was spending, prior to my self discovery and prior to recognizing the value of self care, I was spinning. I was overthinking. I was not dialing into my purpose. I was really just, nothing was sticking. And like you said, it's like we come to this crossroads in our lives where we may be achieving, we may be successful in some areas of our lives. However, I know on my own journey, I wasn't really tapping into my purpose. I wasn't tapping into the meaning. And it wasn't until I made those connections, those deeper connections, that I was able to see the value in, like we just said, caring for myself, which then allows me to care for others. And so,
yes.
without putting that oxygen mask on myself, I was really not doing myself, I wasn't doing myself a service. I was trying to be everything to everyone, and that was
Definitely.
coming at a cost.
Yeah.
Right? I kind of burnt myself out.
Oh,
And
I totally
right,
understand that.
and now I really, now that I see that, I want to empower other women, to maybe save themselves some years, um, through the work that I've done on myself, to kind of to let them see that there is a transformation possible, and that it doesn't matter your gender, your age, where you are on your journey, that any time is a good time
Oh, yeah.
to get to know yourself.
Wow, that's a t-shirt quote. Anytime's a good time to know yourself. Wow, yeah, that's actually profound. And
Right.
you're so right about that. It's a beautiful journey that you mentioned, how you can empower people to shatter their limiting beliefs and move on, move ahead, leaps and bounds on their path, their journey, and to fulfill their purpose, which is what is life all about, right? It makes more life more meaningful.
Hmm.
And
And I
yeah,
really believe it starts with conversations,
oh
and
yeah.
such as this, right?
Mhm.
Where we show others, well, I, for lack of a better word, it's like we give permission, right?
True.
Permission to others to be themselves,
Yes.
to
Yes.
be vulnerable, to
Yes.
question those beliefs. right? And
Yes.
to create new ones, to let go of the old ones that aren't serving you well, and to create those new ones that, like you're saying, will increase your self-esteem, they will increase your productivity, they will increase your well-being, your overall well-being.
Yes, yes, yes. Totally, totally. It's more like the mind, body, and soul being in sync, and that is exactly what you need on your path to fulfill your purpose. And that's exactly what is the meaning of life. And it's
Mhm.
as simple as that, and it's as difficult as that again. Because these
Right.
patterns are not difficult to, not easy to actually let go of. And they're old patterns. They're formed over a period of time, and they take enough effort and time from us to drop them and to hold on to different beliefs which are strong, which are positive, which help us on our path. And to inculcate that, it again takes a lot of time and effort. So one side
Mhm.
you've got to let go of these old beliefs that are not serving you well, and you're on the other side you've got to pick up certain things which actually can propel you forward. So this belief thing again, this old belief, again, yeah, you also mentioned certain things wherein it boiled down to another thing, right? Like we were passing on our control to someone else, like we were
Mhm.
allowing somebody else to drive our life, and
Mhm.
we were not taking any control over it. It's not that we have any control over things that happen, and yet at some point we can choose to be what we want to be and who we are. So that is really really important for us to understand, and it's not
Mhm.
just about control; it's also about letting go of what doesn't serve us. And for that, again, there are patterns that need to be broken, and then when this pattern is broken, it's so liberating, right? It's you feel alive again.
Mhm. Yes, and why do you think, Bhavana, that we have such a difficulty with this work? What is it that scares us so much about letting go?
I think there are two things that when I look at letting go, for me it's always been difficult to let go of certain baggages, emotional or otherwise, in my life. And one of the reasons I attribute to what I have understood in my life is that letting go happens in phases, and each time you take your own time and effort in putting down, jotting down. I write a lot, so I kind of
Mhm.
make a note of what I can do, what I have control over, how my mood or power is on that particular day, and then I start working that way when I'm feeling laid down. And when I have to let go of certain things, I can't do it all of a sudden, and it doesn't happen for me that way.
Mhm.
So what I have understood is that you just have to have complete faith and trust, and then you just let go. You just let go, and then it's so
Mhm.
liberating that as well. It's so liberating because you don't know, everything is uncertain. You just have to have that trust and faith and just go with the flow.
Mhm. That trust is really hard to develop. You
Yes.
know, when we think about a limiting belief and how long we've held on to something, there's a level of comfort there. And like you're saying, it's difficult to let go of something that has been comforting you.
Yeah.
Maybe it hasn't been serving you well, but it has been providing that comfort. You know the outcome.
Okay.
It's the uncertainty of that outcome. If we let go of this, what will replace it? And I know for myself, I had a hard time letting go of those familiar patterns. It was scary. I wasn't sure what I was going to what I was going to embrace. And so I started with little steps, right? Just choosing little things that took me a while to be able to talk about what I actually want. And when I would find little things that I wanted or needed, that would be my first little step in taking back control and not letting others have all the power to make my decisions.
Perfect, perfect. It's here again. I do not want to confuse other people where we talk about one place where we talk about taking back control, and the other place we talk about letting go of things. So for the benefit of everybody, it's about, one is letting go of what we do not have in control, or what is controlling us in the negative way, in a negative way, which is hampering us in an aspect. So that is what we've got to let go of and have trust in the entire process and the entire flow. And what we need to have control over is ourselves, is our mind, body, and soul, is that entire being, as we call ourselves. So that is something that we need to have control over, because we've handed over our power to someone else. So
Mhm.
this is just for I just wanted to bring out this distinction between letting go and control, because we're talking about both. So I didn't want people to get confused about it.
No, I think you clarified that well. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you. Yeah, again, you spoke of this, limiting beliefs, when we hold on to these old beliefs and old patterns, though we know somewhere that it doesn't serve us well. And yet we hold on to them, because I guess it's more on the likes of, known devil is better than the unknown angel. So it's more on those lines, because you know what the outcome is. You mentioned that we know it so well, though it might not be the right outcome that we choose or that we deserve, and yet we know what it can do to us, and that,
Mhm.
as humans, I guess it is very difficult for us to embrace uncertainty.
I was just going to say we are wired for certainty. And
Yeah,
so
see,
to trust an uncertain process at a time where maybe our self-esteem and our confidence isn't at a high,
yeah,
right? That's the value of having a coach with us
yeah,
along our
perfect,
journey,
perfect. Yes,
right?
rightly said. That's perfect.
Yes, for
Yeah.
those times when we can't hold ourselves accountable, for those
Yes.
times when we are struggling to let go.
Yes.
Sometimes we need that mirror held up to us to reflect back to us what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and how we're behaving.
Perfect. That's very well said. And who better than people who have actually undergone the same journey, and they've understood from their experiences, who can handhold you, or who can guide you on a path which is liberating. I mean, that's exactly what a coach does, and fantastically put. Yes.
Right. And I think too that a coach asks you the questions that you may not be able to ask yourself. That's the deep work, right? And then a coach can hold you accountable. And a lot of times, without that accountability partner, when we make a pact to ourselves and then we don't follow through, there's an invisible line of accountability there that we never publicly told anyone, and we don't have anyone holding us accountable. Therefore, if we don't follow through, that's okay. And we might just notice that we perpetuate that same cycle, right? And
Yes.
so I see the value of adding that neutral third or that neutral party, such as a coach, who can
Yes.
really just help you and guide you, because ultimately the client possesses the answers.
Perfect. Yes, it's their life. They know it very well. It's almost like, calling the elephant in the room, which they probably wouldn't really like to come, get
Hmm.
get get really comfortable with.
Right?
Right? It's sometimes about the varied perspectives, which they
Hmm.
might fail to see, which
Hmm.
could be helpful in understanding
Yes.
where the root cause lies and how to maneuver it. So
And
that's
something I've learned along my own path is that the thinking that got me to a stuck point will not help me get unstuck,
oh yes.
right? I need to change something. I need to gain a new perspective. I need to do things differently. I need to start thinking differently if I want to get unstuck. And that right there requires that deep inner work,
Yes.
uh, right?
Yes. Yeah. And you mentioned this idea of being comfortable in our space of old beliefs and beliefs that are not really nice, not really good. That
Mhm.
got me thinking. It's more like the transformation is definitely painful, and the change has to come from within. That, I guess, most people understand now. And change is always there. It's always there. It's just either we fail to see it or we fail to accept it. That's when problem arises.
Mhm.
All right. So when we
Yes.
are in that that zone where we understand that this might not be serving as well, and yet we continue to stay there, we choose to stay there. It's more on the lines of, I got this vision in my head, which was more like the cocoon and the butterfly. So the moment it's there in the cocoon, it's all it knows that it's kind of safe in that zone, and yet it's not
Mhm.
really doing it any good, because that's not why it is there for. It's not, that is not its purpose of birth. That is not why it's it stayed there for so long. For what? It's not really doing anything there.
Right.
And yet that change, when it believes in itself, and then when it knows that it has to get out of that zone into the outside uncertain space,
Mm.
that's when the transformation happens, and that's when the change, when it comes from within, that's when the transformation happens. And every transformation, we've been through quite a few, I'm sure, in our lives, and every transformation comes with its own set of pain, grief, and lessons. And and uh, when transformation is definitely painful, and it's painful for a period of time, and beyond that, it's so liberating, it's so nice. It's like you got it all, and you fail at that point in time. You understand, or you kind of think, I had it all. Why didn't I see it earlier?
Mhm.
So
Right.
it's like that, yeah.
Well,
So
you
then
start to think differently.
yes, you start to think differently, and then you realize, I knew it all along, and yet I did not do anything about it. Or I did. How did I even fail to see this? So there are two things: either you failed to see it, or you knew it and you did not want to take that extra step, or
Face it.
that step, because it's uncertain and you cannot embrace it freely because you don't know what's going to happen.
Right. It's
Wow.
difficult to face it. I got goosebumps listening to you talk about that. I felt that transformation that you were talking about,
You.
and it's so freeing,
Yes, yes. And just imagine the butterfly. It's so colorful. It
right?
flies so freely, and that is why it was there. And
Yes.
while it was in the cocoon, it did not understand that until
You
it
know,
decided to.
I think back to the knock at the door,
Oh yeah.
in my own
Wow.
words,
Okay.
meaning the lessons that
Hmm.
kept showing up in my life prior to my self discovery.
Okay.
And I would have the same things show up in my life, the same patterns show up in my life. And again, I would meet them with anger, frustration, and fear. It wasn't until I started to think differently and gain a new perspective that I was able to internalize that and use it as a tool instead of sitting in that negativity. But I can honestly say that I feel like we're wired for that negativity. I've also discovered in my own life that, and maybe you've heard this before, it takes, we could have 10 positives in our
Hmm.
lives and one negative. And that one negative can overshadow all those positives. So it really does require a shift in our thinking to be able to sit with that uncertainty and to trust ourselves to let processes unfold, which is really going against the patterns that I held for so long, which was I had to know the answer.
Okay.
I didn't want to make mistakes. and I was in a box, essentially,
Yes.
right? And so, like you're saying, as I learned to break free from those limits and get out of the box, that is when I had my transformation, my awakening to this whole new abundant world that I was missing out on.
Yes. 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 It's so freeing. Uh, it's difficult to explain. Actually, it's just got to be felt. And each person will have such a time in their lives when they undergo transformation, and it's never the same again. It's the life that we have had before is something totally different from what happens after you undergo transformation, right? It can't be explained as such in words.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's hard to I think you have to show others.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
I know for
yes.
myself, many people have said to me over the last 2 years that I have really picked up a personal improvement or personal development lifestyle, is that I'm happy. And that happiness is an emotion that I display most of the time now. And it's not that I am living my happiest life right now. Why? I'm free from my negative thinking. I'm free from judgment. I'm free from certainty. And when you can get yourself to a point where you can trust yourself and you can allow things to unfold, well, then that's when you do begin to live what I feel is your happiest life,
Wow.
and you're living your authentic self.
Yes.
And when you have that deep inner clarity and that inner strength, and you are in alignment with your values and your beliefs, it's going to take a lot to get you to change your mind now, right? Like you were saying, once you see the light, once you turn on your light, there's no turning back,
Yes.
right?
Yes, yes, that's so true, and that has to come from within again. And yeah, you mentioned that this knock on the door, and you over a period of time it took you to realize that this was your I should say this was your inner voice, sorry,
Yeah.
inner voice which was nudging you in a certain direction, and
Mm-hmm.
then maybe it took you a while. It's similar story
It
on my
did.
side as well, wherein I knew that I was not in the right path in the corporate world, and it was not doing me any good. And yet I stayed there for a decade until I really understood, and I'm out of that system now. So for good, perhaps. And
Right?
yeah, and it really feels good. It feels good because I
Mm-hmm.
feel that I was probably on a different track, and I'm back on my track now, and it
Yes.
feels really empowering. I know that this is my path. I know this is my direction, and I'm following what comes my way. And yes, that's the inner voice. I guess you clearly mentioned that when you're talking about authentic self, it's more about be listening to these small inner voices that come time and again, and then they nudge you in the right direction, and then that's exactly when you need to uh, grab hold of them, give them your attention, your entire focus, and then realize, understand what lessons they're trying to teach us. What is the door that's that they are
Mm-hmm.
opening up for us? What are the different opportunities, or what are the different areas that we now need to channelize, channel our focus on our energies together at?
Mm-hmm. Well, and you know, when you bring up corporate, you made me think of my situation, my experience, and I was up against a limiting belief. I was trying to do what the outside world was telling me to do, which was to suck it up and to be patient. And this is the way it is. And this is the way it's always been done. And you shouldn't feel that way. And it was sucking the soul right out of me because that's not how I felt, actually. I felt that I wanted to be more of myself at work, and the tension was that I couldn't bring my authentic self to the corporate world. And that was the tension. And it wasn't until I decided that I was worth it and that I'm a priority and that I have value
Yes.
beyond this box. And that box for me was in corporate land. And so I made an internal decision that I was worth it and that I had more to offer. And I chose to leave that despite the naysayers, despite the inner critic in my own mind, right? And I was able to do that because, again, I spoke earlier about I was in alignment. I brought my values and my beliefs in alignment, and my intuition was telling me that I had more to offer and that if I were to change, I could experience even more possibilities. And so I took a chance.
Perfect. Perfect. And that's the best thing yeah, that's the best decision, I guess, to get out of what was not in alignment with your purpose, with your beliefs and values. And now I'm sure it's a totally different feeling and scenario, right?
Now I can focus. Now I feel more passion. Now I have more meaning with the work,
Yes.
right? And there's more purpose, and I feel fulfilled, and I just have this abundance of
Yes.
energy to connect with others, to, like I say, help to empower others to transform their beliefs and to step into their power.
Yeah, that reminds me. There's something that I wanted to share because we spoke of abundance, we spoke of fear, right? So it's about fear and lack that we have in our mind that brings us to misery in a way, and you cannot really access yourself because there are parts of you that you have distributed to other people and you don't have it with you now. So you've got to think deeper and understand what stay focused, stay still if you can, and when you're in that zone of silence, you kind of, that's because you've slowed down, you've opened up few different opportunities for yourself, or your mind is more open now to receive better. It's so easy for us to give love to other people. It's so difficult for us to receive the same when it comes to us. And it's so easy for us to stand up for other people. Why is it so difficult for us to stand up for ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
And then
Mm-hmm.
this
Right. And
fear. Yeah, yeah, please go on.
no, finish your thought, please.
Yeah, because this is it's like, see, this fear, for me, one of the fears again is facing camera, and I told you about this a few months ago. It was so difficult for me. This last November, right? I clearly remember when I started off on my own. I did not know what this path unfold was going to unfold for me. I did not know, this was all uncharted business for me, and I did just just went with the flow. Just got this gut feeling, and then I plunged into it. That's all, and
Mm-hmm.
it just kept on throwing different opportunities my way, and I kept on grabbing all of them. And sure today, maybe because it's all because of that. I'm just very grateful and blessed to be able to talk to a lot of people who are like-minded, like-hearted, and
Mm-hmm.
if I should say, my soul tribe. And it's been that way only because I guess I slowed down, and I felt that this nudge, this inner voice is trying to tell me something, and this is the direction that I need to head, though I was really not sure what it was showing me. And then
Mm-hmm.
another thing is that when I spoke of fear, right? I just could not talk in front of the camera. I could not. I can show you a video probably sometime later where I was so bad at it. My hands were trembling. I couldn't do it, and that was a limiting belief that I had that I cannot talk in front of the camera. There will be probably thousands of people who will watch me, and the fear of being judged, the fear of I don't know what people are going to talk about me, what people are going to say. So I had all these thoughts in myself, and I stopped myself from believing in myself, and I stopped myself from acting, from doing the tasks that I set out to do.
Mhm.
And then I one day I had to take a break, and then I had to talk to myself. I talked to myself, and I would write. I talk to myself as well. Some may call it weird, but that's how I understand myself better. And
Mhm.
the what I told myself is this: you've got to move forward, and unless you're out of your zone, your comfort zone, you will not really learn and grow. And unless you learn and
Mhm.
grow, you're not making any progress. So I started telling myself that by the end of this time, you've got to take this step, and you can do it.
Mhm.
You have it in you. You can definitely do it. You just have to access your power. And I did. I did. I'm really happy and grateful for everything today, because I
Mhm.
started off with a lot of writing, a lot of content, and that I used to do earlier, but I never posted it anywhere, fearing again what people would say. And then I
Mhm.
started voicing out that way. Next step was to start podcasts, and then now I'm at video podcasts, and I'm really happy, and I'm not nervous at all. I think I've actually shattered my LinkedIn belief. I'm happy
I
to
was
say.
just gonna say, I can hear the transformation, right? It's,
Yes,
I started not feeling confident in myself. I recognized as I started to take small steps,
yes,
consistent small steps, that before long I had clarity. And with that clarity, I was able to deliver my message. And now
yes,
I'm at the point where I can deliver my message through different mediums, whether that be writing, video. I mean, I have gone through something similar. So what you said just really hit home for me.
I'm so happy that
Hmm.
it resonated with you. And I have my
Hmm.
next step as well chalked out. I want to get out of this fear of talking on stage. I want to get out of that and be able to be a public speaker on stage
Hmm.
in front of people live. And that's something that I intend to do in the next couple of months. And yes, that's a limiting
Look
belief
at it. I can't
again.
stop smiling. My cheeks hurt because I just feel your enthusiasm for life. And I can hear how, like you were saying, when you started, there was that uncertainty in yourself.
Yes,
And yet, here, through your own process of self discovery, you found yourself, you found your voice and your authenticity. And the more you align with that belief, the stronger you are, the more your productivity goes up, your resiliency goes up,
yes,
you're able to remain calm, which in a situation that we're globally in right now
mm,
of COVID 2019, being calm is a skill that many of us don't have. So it is definitely a leadership skill, and it is something to be proud of, right? And as you're saying, you've started to tap into your intuition by slowing down. You are allowing your own voice to rise to the top instead of the other conflicting voices. And the
yes,
more you hear your own voice, the more that trust goes up. And the more, like you're saying, you are able to accomplish.
yes.
It's such a beautiful transformation.
Thank you. Yes. And this is the latest personal example that I have myself, right? and I'm on the journey. I haven't completely accomplished what I set out to do, and my intentions kept on growing over a period of time. And I have given myself the next 2 months for this public speaking thing, and I'm sure that I will do that. And see, again, this limiting belief, right? Um, I guess the biggest limiting belief that I had was not being able to believe in myself fully.
Mhm.
That's the biggest setback
Yes.
that one can have, not believing in oneself completely. And when
Right.
that happens, you have this fear because deep down we know that we have it all in us. And whatever we
Mhm.
need, we have it. We just have to tap into that energy and we have it. And for
Mhm.
me, my again, this belief in myself, I had it probably a long time ago. And I guess I don't know, over a period of time I picked up other, as an adult as well, I have picked up certain limiting beliefs in my system, and uh, they have become hard, you know, patterns in my life. And
Mhm.
another thought that came to my mind about a couple of months ago was that, if I had been in a particular zone sometime in my life, if I were extremely confident sometime, if I were in my completeness, if I had complete belief in myself sometime in my life,
Mhm.
I can definitely today also I can definitely access that superpower that I had,
Mhm.
because I've been in that
Right.
zone. I am in a different zone now, and I can definitely tap into that energy anytime that I want.
And you know what? You just made me think that's the beauty of coaching again.
Ah,
It gets us to a point where ultimately we want to be able to coach ourselves. And
yes.
one of the ways that we can coach ourselves is to remind ourselves, like you're saying, hey, I've been here before. It might not
Yes.
have been identical, but if I was able to overcome that a challenge before, even though this doesn't look familiar, and even though this is a new challenge, I believe that I have the ability to figure things out, right? And that's that message, right? That's that message that needs to be sent home over and over and over again, because, like you're saying, as a child, we didn't really get that messaging, right? And maybe I know for myself, I went into the public school system and I surrounded myself with peers, and not all my peers were kind. And I am a sensitive person. And when somebody would say something mean to me or attack me, I didn't know not to take that personally. I didn't know how to unpack that. I did take it personally. And I went inside and I tried to think like, well, I'm not good enough. I can't meet the expectations of others. And it just started from there, right? Just tapping into this. Well, how can I get better? And how can I be better? And now all of a sudden I've started to want to please others. And that was a pattern I didn't see back then, right? And so again, it brings me to fast forward to today. I really want to be that voice that can help others feel valued, heard, and seen, so that they too can recognize their inner worth and really let go of that old messaging that doesn't serve them well anymore.
True, true. I never thought of this coaching angle. Thanks for bringing in that perspective. Because it sometimes you really need that nudge from outside, not just from yourself, from within. Sometimes you really need that one another person who can show you the brighter side of life, or a different perspective, and something that you have never, as you said, somebody holding up a mirror in front of you, and you look deeper within yourself, and that's
Yeah.
when you understand that you have it, and yet you fail to see, or you fail to recognize, or maybe even fail to confront it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So
And
that's
a
one.
lot of times our family and our friends mean well.
Yes.
Our family and our friends are a lot of times in our corner. However, I have learned that when we are trying something new, sometimes family and friends don't know what to do with that. And you could be changing and becoming something that they are not. something that frightens them. You might be attempting to do something that maybe they wanted to do all their lives and they never found the courage. And so it's difficult to have these conversations with the well-intentioned people in our lives because sometimes they want us to stay the same,
Yeah.
right? And so
True.
sometimes we need to get around people who can help us see a side of ourselves that we aren't able to see. They can help us see those blind spots.
Oh, yeah.
And it's not that those blind spots are bad. It's just that we can't see them. They haven't come to the surface. Coaching can help bring those things to the surface and deal with them in a healthy way.
Perfect. Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm,
That's really right. Yeah. And
mhm,
again, it's, I don't know, this fear that people have about uncertainty. You spoke of that, right? It's just that you again mentioned that there are, all these are well wishers, all these are our loved ones, and yet maybe we are set out to accomplish something that they really wanted to and they couldn't, or they have probably failed at it and they maybe assume that we would too. And
mhm,
it might not be the case because each person's, again, I don't want to touch upon strengths and limitations because it's with everybody and it's almost all the same with most people that we know. It's about reclaiming our power zone. That's when we need to
mhm,
know and understand ourselves more and even better to be able to get into that power zone that we all have, the reservoir that we have that we can access anytime that we want. And that's where we're going to get all our the right set of energies and right set of intentions, right set of intuitions from for us to move forward. And this, for
mhm,
me, it's been again, it's difficult. I sometimes feel that I fear my own power.
mhm,
I sometimes
mhm,
fear what happens if I enter my power zone, and what happens to the people around me, my loved ones, my close ones, and
mhm,
what's going to happen because I don't know how to handle my own power, maybe. And again, maybe that's a limiting belief that I have. And I don't know. What if I tap into it? What if
mhm.
I really show and have my strength, reclaim it? What if I'm totally a different person and people cannot see it that way and cannot accept or understand? That's a limiting belief,
Mhm.
I'm sure.
Well, absolutely, because you just shared with us how you were able to see that limiting belief and you were able to shatter it. And so a lot of it has to do with the way we're thinking about the situation. And like you're saying, those what ifs that pop up, right? There, again, we're tapping into the thinking mind. And if we are not aware of how we think, then there's this possibility for us to go to the negative and to stay there, right? We have to learn how we think and how we can shift our thinking to a more positive approach. And
Yes.
that requires repetition, practice, and it's a journey.
Yes, it's a journey.
Mhm,
It takes a lot of time and effort, and time and again you need to make the same kind of effort again and again because these old patterns have to completely go because they've been formed and they've developed roots. They've just stayed there and lived with us and grown with us all of our lives, and they have to be broken, cut down, and just completely rooted out. And then a fresh seed has to be planted there, and that has to be nurtured again. It has to grow. That can
I
do.
think now coaching, you're just making me aware of how valuable coaching is at this time of a global pandemic, as a lot of us are looking for how do we reset,
Yes. Yes.
right? And so this is a very pivotal
True.
time
True.
for coaching because it really does allow us to hit that reset button.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Jennifer, I would
Mhm.
really love to know more about your coaching and what's it called and how can people reach out to you because you're doing exemplary work and I really want as many people as possible to get empowered through your talk to through you. Please let us know more
Aw,
about it.
thank you, Bhavana. I live on LinkedIn primarily. I can be found at Jennifer Beitz on LinkedIn through my profile. I have branded myself as Genuine Conversations, and I provide a safe space for women to be seen, valued, and heard. And I love to go dig deeper with my clients and to help them through that process of transformation so that they too can shatter those old limiting beliefs and learn how to create new ones and step into their power.
Wow, that's fantastic. I'm really sure that there will be a lot of people who come to you, and I can see a bright side to the entire thing. The future is definitely brighter than what it is now.
You know, and you just reminded me, Bhavana, when you were talking about what if I let go? What am I going to receive? And I think you attested that when you let go, your tribe will surround you,
Oh
your
yes,
new tribe, right? It
yes,
is difficult to let go of comfort. And we have both talked now about when you are able to let go, that you will receive growth and opportunities in return. And so I
very true.
feel there's some comfort in that.
Very true. When you let go of this comfort, we're not asking anybody to get into an uncomfortable situation. It's not about being uncomfortable. It's about getting from a known comfort into a better comfort, which
Mm,
is helping you grow. This comfort that you know now is limiting your growth, and you've stayed there for way too long. And then only when you learn and when you grow out of it, that's when you see that this, I can't even say the sky is the limit, because sky is definitely not the limit. Yeah, the
it's
entire
just this
universe is.
abundance, right? You
Yes,
just get
yes.
this abundant mindset. And all of a sudden, everything that maybe looked negative before, you're seeing in a new light.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah,
beautifully
right?
said. Yes, I couldn't agree more. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So it's not about going from comfort zone to an uncomfortable zone. It's about going from unknown devil into something that's really, really beautiful and liberating. That's your comfort zone. So that's where you'll
Yes.
feel better, find better people, and newer, better opportunities are awaiting you
Right?
there.
I
Yes.
love it. I love it.
Fantastic.
Oh,
So that
such
was
a
such a
great
nice.
talk.
Yes, I was about to say that. Such beautiful talk. There's so much. There's so much that we've both, um, you know, understood from our talk ourselves. We've understood ourselves better. We've understood each other better. Then I'm sure the viewers also um, have a lot to take from this.
Absolutely. I know that we met some months ago now through LinkedIn. And
Yes.
actually, it was through the both of us trying to, in our own worlds, trying to step into our power. And we have stayed connected throughout our journey.
Yes.
And now we're able to have this conversation to empower others to
Yes.
see the value in shattering their limiting beliefs. And so I am right beside you. I am super excited to be sharing this conversation with you. And I too hope it resonates with many of your listeners.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful that I
As am
have you
I.
here today. I'm so
I
grateful.
am really grateful that
Thank
we had
you.
this opportunity to share this conversation today.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Beautiful conversation. Thank you. So this is what we have from Let Me Listen. We'll be back for some more another time, another set of topic. Thank you.
Nice talking to you.
My pleasure.